First, when removing the tire, you'll need to loosen the brakes by taking the quick release off. You just push forward and then pull out and it releases. There's one on each side. Next, you'll squeeze the brakes together, which is easy once the quick release is on. And then if need be, push this rubber back and it just falls apart and it releases your tire from the brakes.
After you've loosened the brakes from the rim of the tire, you can disengage the quick release, unscrew it if necessary to loosen it more from the axle, and then you can lift the tire away from the brake in the bike. When working with a Presta valve, you need to unscrew the lock nut at the top of the valve before you deflate the tire. And then press down on the valve stem to deflate the tire before removing it. And then you can squeeze around the tire to make sure all the air is out. So after you squeeze around both sides of the bead, put the tire lever under the bike tire, and then put the other tire level a couple inches away and start prying the bead away from the rim.
Once you get the bead loose from the rim, you can use your lever and slide it all along the tire to get it loose.
Once you remove one bead from one side of the tire, turn the tire around and loosen the bead on the other side with the lever and go all the way around until the tire and the tube come off of the rim.
So once the tire is completely removed from the rim, you will remove the inner tube that's on the inside and you will inspect it as well as the tire and as well as the rim for the possible cause of the air leak. If you need to, on the inner tube, you can patch and repair then before applying a new tire onto your bike.
Once you have the inner tube removed from the tire, pump just enough air into the inner tube so it holds its shape. Then you can disconnect it from the pump and start feeding it back into the tire. When you're installing the inner tube back into the tire, make sure you place the valve stem right by the recommended pressure for the tire.
When putting the tire back onto the rim, you want to make sure that the valve stem lines up with the valve hole right here to make sure that it's not crooked. So you'll put it through that hole and then start putting the tire back on one bead at a time. Alright, so you'll first put one bead in all the way around before then putting the other bead in and pushing all the way around. Then just make sure that the tube is in the groove all the way around the rim.
Okay, to get the last bit of the second bead onto the rim, you might need to use a tire lever to snap it back into place. And then you'll have both beads on both sides of the rim into the side of the rim. So after you have the tire on the rim, you want to inspect the whole tire, make sure you can't see the inner tube, and make sure it's properly installed on the rim. And then you're going to partially inflate the tire and check it again.
Alright, and then you can finish inflating the tire to its full pressure between 60 and 80 psi.
After you inflate the tire back to full pressure, since this is a Presta valve, you need to tighten the lock nut on the top of the Presta valve, and then you're ready to go. Once you inflate the tire back to full pressure, you're ready to put it back on the bike. You want to line it up with the axle of the tire, spread the brake pads apart, and set the tire back in. Tighten this, and then close the quick release.
Once the axle is connected, you can go back and tighten your brakes back up, squeeze the brakes together, Bring this forward. If you have to move that rubber again, and it's back and connected, put the quick releases back on both sides. Once the tire is installed back on, one final thing to do is check and make sure that your front brakes were applied properly. It should stop and your front brake should bring the back up.